about data center automation, a new year, a new suite. This webinar is brought to you by Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and your host for today is Galeb Aude. I'll just bring my slide there.
Caleb, do you need me to advance the slides?
It is very slow in advancing. Yeah, that's it. As I said, my name is Galeb Aude, and I work as a director at Techno Management. It is an enterprise management solution provider operating in the Middle East and hopefully soon in Canada. I am your host for today, and I am your local user group leader for Ottawa. Our speakers for today are Vikram Mathuru. He is the Director of Product Management, Data Center Automation at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And we have as well Sibel Satiroglu. She is a Senior Product Marketing Manager for Data Center Automation, also at HP Enterprise. This session is being recorded, and it will be brought to you once in a few days after the webinar is over. There will be a recording, and at the same time, we will send you the recordings of the webinar and the slide deck. Just a couple of housekeeping issues. To enlarge your screen or the presentation pane on your screen, just click on the rectangle in the upper hand right corner of the presentation pane being pointed by the red arrow. I hope that you can all see that. Meanwhile, we encourage you to ask questions, and if you go to the question page, please type and send them in the Q&A pane on the left side of your screen. Simply type your question and then click on the Ask button. Also, you can ask the question in your language. To do that and receive them in your native language, click on the flag in the upper left corner of your screen, which will launch a language selector box. Next to that, you have to click on the radio button next to your language and then click on the apply, and you are set. So let's get started, and I will transfer the control to Sibel for the time being. Sibel?
Yeah, thank you, Caleb. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar. Thanks for making time. I'm going to open the session with a brief discussion about the realities of infrastructure management, the challenges facing IAM today. And then I'm going to hand it over to Vikram, who will talk a bit about the forces shaping infrastructure management. And in that light, he will introduce the DCA suite, the 2017-01 release. He'll also talk a bit about what's coming in the next releases. We'll wrap up with a Q&A section. I'll lead this section with some frequently asked questions that we get from the field, some top-of-mind questions from customers, and then we'll open the floor to you for your own questions. So with that, I want to start off with a question, which is, what do today's businesses want from IT ops? And the answer is really quite simple. Services, infrastructure services at the right time, at the right cost, with no risk. So there's tremendous pressure for IT to viably partner with the business to deliver services with cost efficiency, with agility, and minimal risk. But there are some growing pains, and IT struggles to meet those business needs. And why is that? So pictures can be interpretive, and if you look at this picture, perhaps you see, as I do, this sheer sense of scale, a certain immensity, growth. We could even say proliferation. So it's this notion of growth and scale and increasing requests for more and more services to be delivered faster and faster. So in the next slide, I'll touch upon 3 pain points centered around this notion of growth and proliferation. And we should be very interested to hear about your challenges too. So if you want to drop a line, a chat through and share your comments through the Q&A tab, please feel to do so. So with that, the first pain point is centered around this world of many. IT organizations have evolved and they've built their data centers, and they have this world of many where there are many tools and many scripts and many legacy apps and many routine manual tasks and countless amounts of servers and permutations of those servers, many silos, which lead to many handoffs and in turn many errors and rework. And in that world of many, there's also a lot to comply with, both externally and internally. So when we talk about internal compliance, we're referring to those company policies that organizations have to adhere to, such as software updates and patch levels and access control and authentication. And there's also external compliance, the regulatory, industry, and governmental benchmarks that are designed to protect privacy and data, like CIS, like TCI, like SOX. And it's difficult to keep up with patch levels and compliance in this large-scale, fast-moving environment. Security is important, compliance is important, but it's got to be fast. And to have to manage all of this with ad hoc, point-in-time, project-style tools and processes is really quite difficult, if not nearly impossible. So the last pain point that I'll talk about is this notion of optimizing capacity, difficulty of keeping infrastructure capacity optimized amidst this grand scale. And here we're giving an example of unmanageable VM sprawl. It's estimated by a research that was conducted by a Stanford fellow. There are about 10 million idle servers worldwide, and that amounts to about $30 billion in the cost of idle data center capital. So you may be wondering how idle is defined, and it's been defined by researchers as comatose servers that have not exchanged computing services or information in more than 6 months. And you may also be wondering, well, that's a lot of inefficiency. How is that? And it's often due to lack of management or control of the environment. In some cases, compute capacity could be manual. So businesses typically just add new VMs instead of, for example, right-sizing their environment. So I talked about the pain points, and yes, these are everyday realities that IT ops has to deal with. But it's not all doom and gloom, and there's some wonderful things happening in IAM today. So I'm going to hand off to Vikram, who will talk about the forces shaping infrastructure management, and then in that light, he'll also introduce the DCA suite. So on to you, Vikram.
Thank you, Ziba. Thank you for that introduction into the challenges that IT are facing now. Let me talk about how we are going to tackle the infrastructure management, infrastructure lifecycle management in that context with the data center automation suite. So a quick word on just the influences that we see shaping our strategic direction. We described what the ITs are facing in terms of challenges. Distilling out of those challenges, we see us getting primarily influenced by the nature of the IT infrastructure itself, which almost ubiquitously we are seeing it to be hybrid in nature. Within the hybrid nature of the infrastructure, I'm going to just crystallize maybe a couple of elements. One, the infrastructure is both private and public, in that some of the servers or network storage elements are going to be within the customer's data center. Others are going to be consumed out of the public environment. But beyond that, we also see the hybrid nature of IT to be reflected in the heterogeneity of it, the diversity of technology stacks that ITs have to deal with, as well as the bare metal and virtualized nature of that infrastructure. We are also starting to see a degree of convergence in terms of managing infrastructure tiers, whether they are compute, network, or storage. We're starting to see IT practitioners starting to tackle compute and network together, provisioning them, ensuring their patch levels are at the right level for a certain workload in conjunction, as opposed to tackling them in silos. This is also something that we see getting institutionalized by way of converged infrastructure or hyper-converged infrastructure. Lastly, and most importantly in some ways, is the simplification of consumption of infrastructure. In a lot of ways, this determines the core part of our strategic direction from Data Center Automation Suite. There is a clear need to make sure that the infrastructure management tools are easy to manage themselves, easy to deploy, easy to upgrade, easy to patch. But beyond that, also the consumption of use cases, the act of consuming infrastructure, whether it is provisioning it or patching it or ensuring its compliance, clearly needs to be much, much simpler than we have had in the past. So these are the forces that are informing how we move forward. And this is what shaped for us our a broader IT operations management portfolio, and within that, data center automation solution. So just a word of introduction on the simplification that we are driving across IT operations management. In HPE software, we've moved away from a collection of point products and instead have consolidated our product solutions into a set of suites, each targeting a particular market segment. Specifically, IT operations management now brings to market four separate suites. There are IT service management for service desk space, help desk space, operations bridge for the monitoring silo of IT, as well as being the event consolidation layer for the IT. And then data center automation solution, which we'll talk a little bit more about going forward, primarily targeted towards infrastructure management lifecycle. And lastly, the hybrid cloud management suite, driving the cloud management platform for IT operations management. All of this is now based on a set of common shared technologies, which is our core technology foundation, which also helps us drive towards cross-suite integrations, ensuring that there is a consistent use of capabilities across all the suites. Within this, Data Center Automation Suite, which we introduced a new version of it in January, earlier this year, last month, was for us a restructuring of the Data Center Automation solution that we brought to market last year as well. Data Center Automation solution from January onwards is now geared around use cases. We've structured the solution in 3 tiers: Express, Premium, and Ultimate. Each of these tiers drives a very specific use case space. Specifically, Express tier is geared around standing up your infrastructure, which is to say the act of provisioning it, the act of initial configuration of infrastructure. Premium builds, the premium tier of DCA builds on the Express tier. by bringing the patching and compliance capabilities on top of this now provisioned infrastructure. This includes the ability to conduct audits on infrastructure to ensure that where drifts are identified, that the infrastructure configuration is remediated to bring it back under compliance. And lastly, in the ultimate tier, we are now introducing new functional use cases, specifically around optimizing your infrastructure by leveraging analytics. And this is the area where we are starting to introduce predictive capabilities or capabilities that drive towards a more intelligent use of your infrastructure based on all the information that we've already captured, which we have captured by way of provisioning events, patching events, or compliance evaluations. We have structured these three tiers, both for compute infrastructure tier, which is to say for all the servers, whether they are bare metal or virtual machine, as well as databases and middleware. This is us offering from DCA solutions perspective one single solution for managing the life cycle of servers, whether they are bare metal or virtual, as well as databases and middleware. So this is a short introduction of the new DCA solution. I'll now drill down into each of the specific tiers, but before I do that, another new introduction that we're making with the DCA suite is because we have structured the solution for multiple infrastructure tiers, specifically for compute, databases, and middleware. The entitlement structure for the DCA suite is also changing. We're changing it to a flexible unit-based entitlement, which allows our customers to consume the capabilities either in compute space or in databases or middleware space. The goal for us is to make sure that we are not forcing a certain ratio of entitlement where every license that you're entitled for from HPE side gets either used for servers or certain number of databases or middleware. We want to leave the decision on where the customer wants to use this to the customer itself. So we are going to entitle DCA on a set of abstract units, which can then be consumed by the customer in whatever infrastructure tier they deem fit. This is also to ensure that going forward, the DCA suite is geared for offering use cases on other infrastructure tiers. Today we do it for compute, databases, and middleware. Going forward, we'll be looking to bring additional use cases in the context of networks, network devices, or storage devices. And this flexible unit-based licensing allows us to encapsulate entitlements for those infrastructure tiers without having to introduce a new licensing paradigm or a new meter. Existing customers who have already licensed themselves on these flexible units can start using the new capabilities on network devices and storage devices whenever they become available as well. So with that, let me drill down into each of the three tiers that we introduced at DCA. So DCA Express mentioned is all about standing up the infrastructure. This is about provisioning infrastructure and its first-time configuration. This act of provisioning is the ability to provision is available both compute as well as for databases and middleware. This is rationalizing from our perspective, from HP's perspective, the capabilities of DCA and making them consistent across all infrastructure elements, across all infrastructure tiers. Which is why when I talk about DCA Express and standing up the environment associated with it, that capability is available for both servers, whether they are bare metal or virtual, across the diversity of the technology stack that we support, the flavors of Unix, Windows, Solaris, AIX, and so on and so forth. All of those diverse technology stacks are supported by the Express tier, as well as additional capabilities of being able to stand up databases or standing up middleware. It's important to also emphasize out here that this Express tier is geared for small-scale deployments to very large-scale deployments. There are no scale limitations within the Express tier. Indeed, it is the fact that we don't have any limitations is true for both Premium and Ultimate as well. We offer the scale as a common capability across of all of our DCA tiers. So this was a quick introduction towards the capabilities that we encapsulate within the DCA Express tier. On the Premium side, these capabilities of Express are built on an additional capabilities offered out here to be able to conduct audits of your environment, whether they are compute again or database and middleware, to be able to evaluate the infrastructure's configuration for well-defined policies. They could be regulatory in nature, defined by what ITs need to satisfy from external governmental agencies, or they could indeed be policies that are internally defined by the businesses as IT standards. The goal of the audit capability out here is to be able to identify adherence to those configurations, to be able to identify instances where infrastructure is out of compliance or has a drift in configuration, and then to be able to patch that infrastructure's configuration to be able to bring it back under compliance. This is a key capability from the perspective of the needs of IT. Beyond standing up the infrastructure, the biggest challenge that we see IT is facing is whether that infrastructure is conforming to the requirements that businesses have to reduce the risk by way of vulnerabilities, whether security in nature or associated with what kind of data ITs are storing. We've indeed seen a lot of challenges around large data breaches or large vulnerabilities being exploited for ITs. And in a lot of instances, it's about infrastructure not running with the configurations that ITs or businesses need them to. And from our perspective, this is a key capability that brings that kind of diligence to the infrastructure that the IT environments are running. So with that, let me move to the ultimate tier. So this is really a new functional space that we are starting to carve out with the DCA solution. Over a period of time, we've recognized that with the act of provisioning and with the act of patching the infrastructure, we are able to capture a lot of data about the infrastructure environment. Our goal is to be able to leverage that data to bring additional insights beyond the provisioning, patching, compliance capability to the IT practitioner and the administrator. One of the initial capabilities that we will bring as part of DCA solution out here will be the ability to identify wasted resources in your virtual environment, in your virtual machine environment. But going forward, our intent out here is to broaden that capability to identify wasted resources for bare metal environment as well. Beyond that, the kind of analytics that we want to be able to leverage out here are things like the common patch levels that are needed in the environment, identifying common compliance policies, and making recommendations on newly provisioned infrastructure on what policies to attach to that infrastructure based on our learnings with the already provisioned environments. As you can see, this is for us a powerful way of leveraging the already captured information and really to be able to bring a new kind of agility for the IT for its infrastructure. So that's a quick introduction on the ultimate tier. I also wanted to mention the capability baked into the DCA solution now around orchestration. We do this by incorporating within the DCA solution our industry-leading orchestration solution. The goal for us is to be able to extend the capabilities of infrastructure automation and in the context of provisioning, patching, and compliance, to tie that with the broader functional ecosystem that IT has, whether that is tying it to the broader monitoring ecosystem or the broader service desk ecosystem. The goal for us is to bring those kind of orchestration capabilities within the context of DCA environment, the environment that is managed by DCA solution, by way of this orchestrator. We believe that it's not sufficient to be able to have automation at individual discrete level, that one consistent unified approach towards automation is key. It extends into the world of automating your processes as well, and that's where having this orchestration engine helps as part of the DCA solution. We already have a lot of content that we offer for this orchestration engine, including thousands of out-of-the-box workflows, as well as API endpoints across technology stacks, across third-party applications, even across some of our competitors' applications. And that's what's leverageable and available for orchestrating with our DCA solution by way of this packaged orchestration capability. So with that, let me just give a quick summary about what makes our DCA suite stand out versus some of the other data center automation solutions that you might have in the market. First and foremost, we have enterprise-grade scalability across all of our DCA suite tiers. You can start small with few hundreds of servers or databases or middleware, and have that environment grow to hundreds of thousands of servers, databases, and middleware. This is a capability that differentiates us with respect to competition. That coupled with a powerful orchestration engine, industry-leading orchestration engine, with all the content that we are able to bring with it, all the orchestration content that we are able to bring with it, allows us to have a comprehensive view across both scale as well as across the functional silos of IT from infrastructure management perspective. We've also packaged now with the January release of DCA the ability to manage the lifecycle of databases and middleware as well. This used to be in the past a separate product for us altogether. It's now a capability that is baked into the DCA solution itself. With the same consistent approach that we are taking towards compute, that same approach is now being leveraged for databases, for provisioning databases, for patching them, for making sure that they are in compliance, as is indeed true for middleware as well. Lastly, I mentioned this already, but ensuring that your infrastructure in compliance is a key capability for IT. It's indeed going to be one of the prerequisites for infrastructure to be running according to business needs. And our compliance capability with the compliance content that we bring to the table, including compliance content for regulatory policies, like, for example, PCI and others, is what differentiates us from the other vendors in the market. So with that, I just wanted to also give you a little bit of an introduction into what the future holds for us. I already talked about analytics as a new functional space. We are going to be focusing heavily in extending our capabilities out there, even as we satisfy the need for simplifying the consumption experience. I described that initially before as I started my presentation as being one of the key influencers for our strategic direction. That remains the case. So across all of these pillars that I'm talking about in terms of analytics, and I'll talk about a little bit ChatOps and Docker Lifecycle Management, simplifying of consumption experience is going to be our North Star. It's going to be the primary design point for us as we flesh out the DCA capabilities. We are starting to look at and build out capabilities that would complement container orchestration engines like Kubernetes. We believe that we can bring value in that environment by managing Docker hosts by managing the compliance of those container hosts, and to be able to plug in provision hosts into the container orchestration framework. So those are the kind of capabilities that you will see us bringing out in the upcoming releases around the container environment. We are also starting to drill a little bit deeper into what it means to have a more collaborative approach towards the consumption of infrastructure lifecycle management use cases. And ChatOps is really one element of that drill down, where the consumption of the use cases is not just through the user interface or even an API. It extends to collaborative platforms, social platforms where those capabilities are exposed through bots, which can interact with potentially other bots or through a human interface to realize the capabilities or consume the capabilities that we offer in DCA. So that's a little bit of insight into the kind of things that we are looking at from DCA perspective. So we look forward to hearing more about that from us as we flesh them out. So with that, we can go into the Q&A.
Right. Thanks, Vikram, for the outline of the DCA suite and the capabilities. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, Vikram. I've compiled some frequently asked questions that we get from our customers, some top-of-mind questions that come from the field. So the first question is about why do I need a unified solution? And we can really unpack this question because this question comes in many flavors. For example, there are free open source solutions out there in the market. Why should I look at DCA? What will a unified solution do for me?
Yeah, actually, this is something that we feel quite often, especially when you look at the number of niche tools out there that are addressing very specific narrow slivers of infrastructure space. The assertion that we have out here is that it's important to move beyond random acts of automation. While those will bring some value, in a broader IT context, a comprehensive approach towards automation is what is going to really make a difference. And this includes not just automating, standing up the environment, but also how that ties into how you patch it on an ongoing basis, how you make sure that it remains in compliance on an ongoing basis. Indeed, how this is then tied into a broader and orchestrated through a broader orchestration fabric with the rest of your IT infra or your IT functional silos. That's the approach that we believe is truly the one that would have the ROI, especially when you look at even medium scale environments. The biggest challenge that we see with the narrow point tooling for infrastructure needs is that you end up incurring more time and energy into tying these in these narrow individual automation pieces to realize that big common goal, which from DCA perspective, we already offer in one package solution.
Great. Thanks, Vikram. I think that when you said stop doing random acts of automation and automate end-to-end, I think that really summarizes the answer to this question. So The next question I will ask is, this is coming from a perspective of an HPE server automation customer. And the question is, what do I get by upgrading to the DCA suite? What's in it for me?
Yeah. So actually, large majority of our install base in infrastructure automation is about server automation customers. Three key things that DCA brings to these server automation customers. Number one, a baked-in orchestration framework by way of our industry-leading operations orchestration product. It's a capability now that is part of the DCA suite. So you get that in addition to whatever you have by way of server automation. So, by the way, I should mention that the same server automation is what is part of DCA as well. So it's not like there is a separate tool to realize provisioning, patching, and compliance. I'm just talking about what complements and that server automation product. So orchestration is one. Second, we have a standalone compliance capability that allows the SA customers, server automation customers, to be able to realize a broader compliance capability outside of the SA ecosystem. And this is important because otherwise SA runtimes typically have to share the act of running compliance with the act of running patching tasks as well as provisioning tasks, which for very large environments can be a significant drain on SA resources. So having the ability to execute compliance outside of SA runtime is, from our perspective, a key capability that we've heard customers appreciate. And then lastly, we are now offering, as part of data center automation solution, the ability to manage databases and middleware lifecycle as well. This used to be in the past a separate product. Those database and middleware automation capabilities are going to be available to our server automation customer as well.
Okay. So then once the benefits are understood, Vikram, the natural question that follows on is, what's the path to get to the DCA suite?
That's a very good question, Siba. So we've introduced with the DCA release a customer appreciation program that offers an upgrade path for our SA customers to the DCA suite's premium tier, which essentially encapsulates all the capabilities that the SA customers have today by way of SA, as well as adds to that the three elements that I just described. Please reach out to your account managers, to your sales representatives from HPE side to get more information about the customer appreciation program. We'd be happy to assist with that as well, so don't hesitate to reach out to us as well after this webinar. We can direct you to the resources that will point you to the CAP program.
Okay. I'll ask one final question, Vikram, before we open the questions to the audience. We often hear the paradigm in automation is the precursor to cloud. And this question is asked in the context of hybrid IT and private IT. And the question is, why can't I just start with cloud?
Yeah. So indeed, we believe that no matter how you as an IT translate your journey to cloud, automation is going to be a prerequisite. You will have to automate your basic tasks. You'll have to automate how you interface with your infrastructure. It's the only way to realize infrastructure or even broader IT processes within the context of cloud. Now, having said that, the point of view that DCA has is to be able to offer a management tool that will bring infrastructure lifecycle efficiencies through a single tool, whether they are provisioning it, patching it, ensuring compliance of it. We plug in all of these capabilities into our cloud management platform that are encapsulated by a CM solution to be able to bring that infrastructure lifecycle management to the cloud as well. It's also the one comprehensive way by which we can tackle infrastructure for the purposes of driving cloud services as well. Now, having said that, it's fair to say that these infrastructure automation capabilities can be realized outside of DCA as well. They can be realized through open source tools, through other point tools, and that's also a viable. It's a viable path. Till the time it addresses the needs of automation for the purposes of cloud, it absolutely is the right way to move forward. What I will just allude to is to the earlier question that we addressed, where we believe having one consistent approach, one unified approach across lifecycle managing the lifecycle infrastructure is better than tackling it in a point manner. But for the purposes of cloud, I think it's important to convey that the automation part is the prerequisite out here. That's the only thing that will actually make the move to cloud successful, regardless of how it is accomplished. And DCA, we believe, is one way to tackle it.
Okay, thanks, Vikram. I think in earlier conversations it also mentioned something that really resonated with me, which was that if we want to cloudify the data center, we have to first make sure that the basic data center tasks are automated with processes that are connected. Okay, thanks, Vikram. So I believe we're now ready for some questions and answers from the audience. And Caleb, I'm going to hand it back over to you. And I believe there's some questions in the chat windows if you would like to start asking those questions so we can address them in the broader forum. I don't know if Caleb is having audio problems, so I'll just start the questions. Vikram, I see there's some questions that were written in the chat window. So the first question was regarding, and this is in reference to an older version of DCA we had. It is, will this version of DCA support the virtual appliance solution?
So the virtual appliance solution remains supported by way of the DCA versions that we had before the Jan release. We intend to change the paradigm of supporting a faster time to value, a simplified consumption paradigm, or the attributes that were otherwise captured by the appliance. We will continue to work on them. The form factor in which that they get delivered might be different. But the two things that I want to convey out here is that, one, it's absolutely important for us to continue evolving those attributes, and this means things like having support for PostgreSQL DB, having an IT operator portal that kind of has a simplified consumption place for DC use cases. All of those things will be carried forward. We're just going to take a more deeper look into how we deliver it from technology perspective. And until we do that, we will continue to support the appliance form factor that we had of DCA pre-Jan release.
Okay. The second question is in regards to actually a future release that you alluded to. It's about Docker support. And the specific question is, for Docker support, will it support swarms?
So we intend to have the same heterogeneous approach towards container orchestration systems, just like we do for other technology stacks as well. In fact, heterogeneity for us is a key differentiator that we intend to carry forward. We probably look at Kubernetes first, and then followed by Swarm and other paradigms for container orchestration, just in order to sequence out the release out here. But that's absolutely our intent.
Okay. And I'll ask one final question, and this question is, does DCA support hybrid cloud scenarios, and which public clouds are supported? I think it's probably a clarification is due here as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think, thank you for that question, because it helps me clarify. So the support for or support for multiple clouds or multi-cloud strategy for us is encapsulated within the HCM solution. DCA plays the role of being the infrastructure automation provider for the HCM solution. But the way the services get distributed across multiple clouds, or realizing automation capabilities across multiple clouds, would be a value driver for HCM solutions. So I would direct the answer towards the HCM solution as opposed to the DCA solution out here for the specific area.
Hybrid cloud management solution that ITOM offers as part of its portfolio. Okay, thanks, Vikram. So I'll close the Q&A here because I don't believe there are any more questions coming from the audience. So thanks, everybody, for attending. If you would like to learn more, you can visit our website. You can also check out our blog. This is an ITOM pan-ITOM blog, and we do have frequent articles about DCA, so feel free to subscribe to that. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to your HPE partner. If you don't have an HPE partner, you can actually contact us through the DCA website, and it's not shown on the screen, but in the upper right corner of the DCA website, there's a contact button, and you can click that. So I guess with that, we will close our webinar, and thanks everybody for joining, and thanks for your time.
And please notice that at the end of this, you will receive a survey. We'd appreciate your feedback. So that is being sent out to you right now. So appreciate your time, and then look for the link with the recording and the slide deck as well. Thank you.